Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Chit-Chat Show. Welcome to episode number 8, and we have a special guest, 2 episodes running. Today we are joined by Backpacker Mike. You may know him from Facebook or YouTube, but if not, Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hey everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Backpacker Mike. I've traveled the world for 3 years with my backpack on a budget. The last time I traveled the world, I headed east and just kept going all the way around, hitting a bunch of different countries like Australia that Morgan was in as well. And I traveled for 3 years. Then I came back home and decided that my dad needed a little bit more help, so I became his caregiver. And when 2020 hit and the pandemic, I decided to redo Pint Time. So Pint Time with Backpacker Mike on Facebook and sometimes on Instagram has been going on since 2020. So I'm on like episode 311 now.
So, I
And
was going to say, that's like 6 years straight.
Yeah, 6 years straight of doing a live on Facebook and Instagram. I did do lives on YouTube for a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so
So, I think to start with, let's just talk about Australia with you because all your vlogs are obviously on your YouTube channel. I'll link them in down below in the description. So, if anyone's interested and wants to go and watch the Australia videos that you did.
yeah,
Um,
and if you go to the playlist on my channel, you'll be able to see all the Australia videos. So you don't have to search through all the videos to find them.
so, do kind of what did you think of Australia? Like, what's your overview of Australia?
I absolutely loved Australia. I would say out of all the countries that I visited in those 3 years, Australia kind of actually reminded me a little bit more of home, just from the way things ran and the big cities and stuff like that, and everybody speaking English, obviously.
I was gonna say being the first
And so,
language.
yeah, so it was, plus I was being hosted by a friend of mine named Mike that I met while walking the Camino de Santiago, and and he told me whenever you're ready, mate, I got a place for you to stay. So I was hosted by him. So he was in Bribey Island, and he took me on like a 3,500 kilometer trip through the snowy mountains and Canberra and all the way down to Sydney. Um, and then we turned around Sydney and followed the coastline back up and through Brisbane and back into Bribey Island. But the backstory behind Australia, real quick, is that one day my dad had suffered from a couple mini strokes, and I was his caregiver then as well. And he, we were watching TV, and he there was an ad that came on for Visit Australia, and he said, "Oh, I always wanted to go to Australia, but now I'll never be able to go." So at that point, the fire started to burn inside me again to travel. So I looked over at my dad immediately, and I said, "One day I'll make it to Australia, and I'll take a picture of me holding a picture of you, and then I will call you on the phone and tell you that we made it." So I told my mate Mike that story when we walked the Camino together, and when I got to Australia, he made it a point to drive me all the way down to Sydney so that I could get a picture of me holding a picture of my dad in front of the Opera House, and took the ferry over to Manly Beach and all of that stuff. So it was a real sort of personal experience for me as well, like a real touching personal experience with my father, who I unfortunately lost last July, as you know.
Yeah.
And so the whole Australia trip really, really meant a lot to me. And then plus being hosted by my mate Mike, who took me around and showed me everything and all of that stuff. So I was really impressed by Australia. I really loved it. Uh,
What time of year?
Brisbane,
I was gonna say, what time of year did you go? Because what was the weather like? It's either boiling hot or mediocre hot.
yeah. See that's what was that was weird because I flew into Brisbane. It was a bit chilly. I want to say it was around August or maybe the end of July. So it was like coming out of, I think, their winter. It was somewhere between, that funny time between spring and summer. So in Bribey, it was pretty nice out all day. I mean, I wore shorts and t-shirts and everything, and then at night it got a little chilly. I had to put a jacket on. But then as we made our way down, obviously through the snowy mountains, I saw snow, and it was freezing cold. The wind was blowing at like 40 miles an hour. It was just cutting through you in some places. Like I think it's Tumblewumba maybe was another one that was really cold. But The Stony Mountains were really cool. And then when we got to Sydney, it was a little brisk, but it was still nice. There was actually some people on the beach. So it was kind of like I hit a few different climates while I was there. But I think it was just because I was in that odd spot between, you know, winter and spring.
Yeah, because obviously I went in October and November, which is literally the earliest bit of summer possible,
Yeah.
and it is the polar opposite. It's just hot all the time.
Yeah. Hot everywhere. Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, Brisbane was the worst. When I was up in Brisbane for a couple of days, it was disgustingly humid. It was to the point where the air was hot. You were breathing in hot air, and it's that disgusting heat where you're just sweating constantly.
Yeah, it's that humidity. It's like you walk outside and you feel like you just walked into a sauna.
Basically. So how long was you in Australia in total? Was you a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I was there for, I want to say it was about a month,
Oh, a
right around a
month.
month. Yeah,
Put
it
the
was right
visa
around
to
a month.
use.
Yeah, I think I get, I thought I had not, I think I had 90 days on my e-visa, but I was there for about 30 days. I think it was around 30 days or maybe a little bit more before I flew to Honolulu, Hawaii from Brisbane. That last little trip in Australia there was sort of when I was on my way back home here.
Yeah. I bet the Australia to Hawaii flight was weird because you're going back in time and then going forward in time.
Yeah, that flight was crazy because I left on a Thursday night at like 9:35 out of Brisbane, and I landed in Honolulu, Hawaii on Thursday at like 10:30 in the morning. So I didn't know whether I should eat breakfast twice that day or lunch twice that day or what. It was
Yeah.
all kind of confusing. Yes, it was as if I had a DeLorean in Back to the Future, and I just kind of like went back to Thursday to relive it in a
Yeah,
different place.
it is
But yeah, it's pretty
weird
crazy.
how time zones work because I mean, I obviously did. I was going from London via Singapore to Sydney. So it was weird because
Uh,
the Singapore break was nice, but Singapore's still not the same time zone as Sydney, so you still have to go even more forward in time.
right. Yeah, I had a layover in Singapore too because I went to Australia from Thailand.
From
So I
Thailand.
was in yeah, I flew. I was in Kamala Beach, Thailand. I went to Bangkok, Kamala Beach, and then but I was flying out of Phuket. So it was Phuket to Singapore and Singapore to Brisbane.
Yeah. What did you I've always described ever since I've been to Sydney, Sydney is like I've always described it as it's what London should be. It's got so much British influence and you can see it with the names of the places and stuff, but it just functions better than London.
Yeah, I would agree. Sydney obviously is a big city, and New South Wales one of the biggest, I believe, or the biggest. But yeah, it did have a bit of a British influence. But driving in on the highway though, just kind of when I saw Outback restaurant, I was like, wait, what? They actually have Outback here?
It's
I
like a
asked my mate Mike about that, and he was like, I've never seen that before.
it's
So,
weird because it is like a weird that one city is like an amalgamation of like the US, Canada, and the UK all into one.
yeah, yeah, I would say Sydney. Sydney would probably be like the equivalent of New York City in to an extent, a New York City in the United States. It's such a kind of a melting pot
Yeah, it's got
uh,
the British
type
influence,
situation.
but the indigenous influence and everything kind of melting
Yeah,
into one.
yeah. I saw a lot of indigenous influence when I was in Brisbane. I feel like Brisbane is probably, and I don't mean this negative towards anyone in Australia, but I feel like, to me anyway, Brisbane felt like more of the cultural divide kind of city, like the cultural melting pot city of New South Wales. Sydney had some of that, but Brisbane, maybe it was because the time I was there, because at that time they were holding the what is it? So it was some kind of international cultural festival or something, and they had groups from like the Polynesian islands and Papua New Guinea doing their dancing and singing and all of that stuff, and it was really amazing. And going through the mall there, they in the food court, they just had like every possible food you could think of there. So from my perspective, anyway, I felt like Brisbane was like a real culturally diverse city, probably more so than Sydney. But I loved Sydney when I was there, and Sydney is a tourist, a tourist city. Everybody that goes to New South Wales wants to go to Sydney, so it's kind of like, you got to deal with the tourist trap areas
I,
as well,
I
which as
would
a
I would
budget
say it's
backpacker, I try to avoid.
in my experience. I would have actually said yeah, Sydney is definitely touristy, but
Hmm.
the tourist trap areas are not very obvious. They do a really good job at pushing them aside because, especially around like the opera house and stuff. I don't know whether it's changed since obviously I've been and you've been, like because I went last year. The
Yeah.
There was nothing. Like you don't have anyone running up to you trying to sell you merch or random
No, I
knockoff
didn't get that.
things.
Yeah.
It's like they
Yeah,
actually
I
do a
didn't get.
good job at either isolating them into one area so you can just walk past them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
But
I agree. I can agree with that. I didn't, obviously the street performers and stuff like that, which usually everywhere that you travel. But yeah, you didn't have people coming up and bothering you or trying to, hawk stuff onto you or whatever.
yeah, because
Um,
that's
that I
kind of
saw.
I realized that was a problem in like Paris, especially around like the Eiffel Tower or Notre Dame or stuff.
Oh,
They're
Paris.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, Paris was pretty bad with that. Morocco was even worse. If I had to say the worst place I had when it came to that, it was probably Morocco,
Morocco. Did you do
Marrakesh. But
Marrakesh?
yeah, I did Marrakesh.
Marrakesh.
My plans got kind of messed up there because they ended up confiscating my drone because I didn't know that they didn't allow drones. Now my drone won't. I have a DJI Spark and it won't fly if you're not allowed to use it in that country. And I tried to explain that to him. I said I couldn't even take off if I wanted to. But they put it in a storage, charged me 200 dirham, which is like $20 US. And so that made me kind of stuck there in Marrakesh mostly because I couldn't go anywhere without my drone. I would have had to done a circle and come all the way back to Marrakesh just to get my drone and fly out of there. My initial plan was to go into Marrakesh and stay just a couple of days and then catch a bus or a long bus. And I wanted to go to Rabat, the capital city, Tangier, and make my way over to Fez because I think they had a little bigger airport and I could get better flights out of there. But it didn't work out quite like I wanted it to. But I still ended up staying there for 10 days. And the Riyadh that I stayed in was only $8 a night. So can't complain. It cost me $80 to stay in Marrakesh for 8 days or $100 a stay for 10 days.
Yeah, because from what I remember watching your videos, you did Marrakesh and then you was making your way down to South Africa, but you did the weirdest route possible. You did Marrakesh to Casablanca and then to Qatar and then Qatar to South Africa.
Oh, those were my flights. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I
You
ended
went
up that
out the
way,
way
but
just to basically come back on yourself.
yeah, exactly. And I thought about that, and I was like, "What is that?" But then I realized that the African continent is massive, and it's on the glob of the Earth, so to speak. So they had to come in like a different way to make it a shorter route. They can't just fly like straight down through Africa, from what I understand.
Yeah,
So yeah, I had to go all the way over and then all the way back to Cape Town. But yeah, that was
because
a very long and interesting flight
I was gonna say
for sure.
Cape Town's now made its way onto my list of destinations to go to. Cape Town just
Cape Town,
looks so good.
yeah, yeah, you definitely got to go to Cape Town. I would highly recommend Cape Town and Joburg for sure. Joburg, obviously, for all of the history. Nelson Mandela, is from that area.
Yeah.
I went and saw Nelson Mandela's house. Went to the Soweto Brewery. Um, it was an amazing experience. I highly recommend going to South Africa. Don't be afraid of it. Cape Town and Joburg for sure.
I,
I hear Port Elizabeth is really beautiful too.
yeah, because I realized that with like because when you hear South Africa, I'm assuming in most Western countries, you just hear the crime rates are so ridiculously high. But then you kind of get a similar type thing where it's blown completely out of proportion by the media because in Australia, everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, everything's gonna kill you," and it's like I was there for
Yeah,
4.5 weeks and nothing.
yeah, exactly. Same here. I saw the only dangerous things I saw was in the zoo when we went when
Exactly, it's
Mike
behind a wall.
showed the zoo. Yeah, it's behind the glass. He's like, you see this snake, Mike? This snake right here, one bite will take you out. He's like telling me about it. I'm like, well, we don't need to find any of those around anywhere.
I was gonna say
But the
because I did.
wildlife was pretty cool though. When you see all those white parrots just flying in huge flocks, or the macaws flying around everywhere. And
Yeah,
over here in the United States, I mean, in Florida here, we have some little green parrots and things like that, but nothing like what I saw in Australia. So I will say
I was gonna say
that was a
Australia.
really
From
great
my
experience.
experience, Australia is the best country that does zoos because. Even compared to like
Yeah,
England, we can't do a zoo. It's like we just have a walking path and you walk around and see stuff and you're done. Where with Australia, it
yeah,
seems like they make it more of like an experience, and it's like, especially with the Sydney Zoo that I did, like in the because they separate each area through like country, so the animals of each country. So
yeah.
like when you go into like the Australia exhibit and you've got the kangaroos, the koalas, and the emus, and the Tasmanian devils, the kangaroos and emus, you're actually allowed to walk in the enclosure with them. So it's like they could
Yeah.
come up to you if they wanted to.
Yeah, that was the same at the Australian Zoo too. I laid down right next to a roo. He just looked at me.
They don't care. They just like look at you going,
Yeah, he's just super chill. And
yeah.
they have like all these big lizards running around, and yeah, it's very interactive. Obviously the dangerous ones, the crocs and things like that, are contained,
They
but
tear your head
a lot
off.
of the other stuff is just kind of running around. Yeah,
Did
and that
you
and they.
the important question
uh,
though is, did you hold or pet a koala?
I didn't do either. However, I was really close to it, but they wouldn't let me touch it at the zoo. The person who was like the handler for them was away on break or whatever, so they were just kind of in the tree. So I took some cool pictures of them and stuff, but they said you can't touch them, and they were sleeping like they always do.
I was gonna say because when I did it, because I did it in Brisbane, I did it in the koala sanctuary in Brisbane, and they it was weird because they now that one particular koala sanctuary's changed the rules, so you can't hold them, but you can pet them, but they will like they'll be
Um,
attached to like a fake tree trunk or whatever you call it, like they'll be attached to like a fake tree, and then you can just pet them
right.
while they're on that. But but it was weird because it's like they look like they'll be really warm, but you touch their fur and they're cold. They're freezing.
Really, really, I would have never thought. Yeah, I would have thought they would have been warm or
Well,
warm.
no, I don't know whether, and it's weird because that day when I did the koala stuff, it was boiling hot. So it's like, why are you so cold?
Yeah, maybe that's just the way their body is, I guess, because it being so hot out there in the summer, maybe they just run cool blooded more often. I don't know. It's something I have
I
to
was
look
gonna
up, I
say something
suppose.
you're gonna have to dive into Google on. But the so with your backpacking journey, how much prep went into it? Like, did you have every single country, every single flight booked before you went, or would you kind of just book one flight and then wing it from there?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I did not. I mean, I had a like an idea or a plan of kind of the direction I wanted to go, but uh, some of it was dictated just by what the cheapest flight I could get next would be. Mostly because I just traveled on a shoestring basically, so it was I for instance the last trip that I took when I traveled all the way around the world, I flew from here to your area in London,
Yeah.
and I was there for 2 to 3 days, and then I left there and I took a ferry uh, through the Irish Sea to Dublin for St. Patty's Day. But I knew that I wanted to be in Dublin for St. Patty's Day, so that was my thing. And then from there, I thought, well, I got to see more of Ireland. So then I decided to rent a car and drive around for a week. But it was all sort of on a whim, whatever the cheapest thing was. Like for instance, when I was in Krakow, Poland, and I went and saw Auschwitz 1 and 2, I said, well, the next stop is going to be Italy because I wanted to get to Italy. I wanted to do Sicily, I wanted to do Rome, I wanted to
Yeah.
do Pompeii, all that stuff. But and looking for flights, like everything was super expensive going obviously into Rome, all the big cities. Well, then on Ryanair, I found this random flight for $12 to Lamizia, Italy. And I knew that, wherever you're at in Europe, you can get a train, you can get a bus, and it's pretty cheap. So I was like, I don't know where Lamizia is, but I'm going to book this ticket and then I'm going to learn about Lamizia. And so I found Lamizia is down there sort of along the coastline, not far across the sea from Sicily. and I found out that they hold the World Kite Surfing Championships there. And I booked this Airbnb in this house, and it was a shared Airbnb, and the husband and wife and the kids were there. Super super nice people, and they were German Shepherd breeders, so they had just beautiful German Shepherd puppies like all over the place. They had a pool, nice big house. The guy, he even let me borrow his car so I could drive to the beach and drive around and stuff. And so it was really nice experience. But from there, I just took trains and ferries and buses to get wherever I wanted to um, in Italy. So,
I was gonna say
so yeah, it was kind of like that. You just kind of go on a shoestring. You don't really want to plan everything because I went to Pula, Croatia, and I thought I'm just going to go here for like 4 or 5 days because I want to see some of the Roman history and stuff there, rather than going to Splits or Dubrovnik or something that's really touristy. So I went to Pula instead, and I had only planned to be there for like just a couple of days, but I got there and I loved the city so much that I decided to stay for like 10 days. And so had I booked all of that in advance, I would have been upset that I was leaving and wasn't able to see more. And I met some amazing locals there that took me around places and showed me places and took me to bars and different restaurants to try different things and stuff. And it was just a really awesome experience.
So, was you mainly Airbnb and hosteling, or did you occasionally hotel?
Yeah, it was mostly hosteling and Airbnb, and then a hotel, depending on the cost. So normally, what I would do is when I was on my way to a spot, when I finally decided, okay, I'm going here, I booked the ticket, I'm flying out in 2 days or whatever. I would do the research on the area, and then obviously I would look at three things. I'd look at Airbnbs, hostels, and then obviously hotels. I'd compare the three as far as price, but then also what they offered. Do they offer a free breakfast or whatever?
I mean,
And then I would make my decision from there.
yeah,
So like if a hostel was going to charge me $35 a night and a kitchen where I made my own stuff, or a hotel was going to charge me $40 a night, but they were offering free breakfast, then obviously I'd go with the hotel because now I'm spending $5 for breakfast basically. So that's how I would kind of gauge it out, and it just depended too on the area. Like in France, uh, when I was in Paris, I did a Airbnb there, and it was a small little flat, and I think it cost me like $300 for 10 days in Paris or something, $350 maybe US.
yeah.
So not that bad at all. Then when I went to Nantes, France, I stayed in another Airbnb over there, and that was super nice because the family had a house, and then behind it they had uh, like a row of like maybe four little apartments, like little studio apartments, but you had a bathroom, microwave, sink, all that stuff, and that was really inexpensive too. I think it was $30 to $35 a night. But when I was in, say, Edinburgh, Scotland, I stayed in the Edinburgh Backpacker Hostel there, and that was, I don't know, maybe £18 a night or something. It wasn't that much. So yeah, I just kind of mixed it up, but more often than not, my first choice was hostel, then Airbnb, and then hotel.
I was gonna say because obviously when I did Australia and New Zealand, that was my first ever time hosteling. I've only ever known hotels, but I must have either
Mm.
got really lucky with my picks of where I stayed because none of them were awful. I mean, you'd occasionally get the one roommate who decides to, turn the lights on when everyone else is trying to fall asleep. That's always
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
But overall, they weren't bad because I did the YHA like brands in both Sydney and Brisbane, and then I also did Wake Up Sydney in downtown Sydney as well. So it's like they were always pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't really for the price you're paying, they're definitely worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Mike and I stayed at the YHA hostel there in Sydney too. That's the one that has that big like coffee cafe restaurant downstairs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We stayed there. That was nice. The parking situation in the garage below was a bit interesting. I mean, I know you didn't drive there, so
As I say, I know,
but
I
we,
know. For 4.5 weeks, I didn't drive.
yeah,
To be honest, Sydney's public transport is so good, you don't need to drive. It's like you got the tram,
yeah,
the
we
train, the bus.
yeah, once we parked the car down there, we said we're not going to try to get it back out right now. So we were there for I think 3 days or 4 days or something like that, and we walked everywhere mostly, other than that ferry.
Yeah, I mean,
But
because I was there for on a working holiday visa. Obviously, I just kind of took public transport, probably a hell of a lot more than you did. Because I'm assuming, did you ever make it out as far as the Blue Mountains, or did you kind of with your route just swerve around it?
I'm not sure. I know we went through the snowy mountains, so I'm not sure if we made it near the Blue Mountains or not.
Because
I know
yeah,
we went through the snowy mountains where the big like hydro plant is. I think it is that everybody talks about. We went and visited that. And then after we went through there, we ended up in Canberra and went to a footy game in Canberra, which was amazing. It was the Sydney Lions, I think, or the Canberra Lions versus the Sydney Tigers or something. I forget, but that was a lot of fun to do.
yeah. Uh,
So I'm not sure if I got near the Blue Mountains.
So yeah, the Blue Mountains are like 2 hours from Sydney. They're like 2 hours inland, like away from the coast. Uh,
Right.
they're pretty good though. Because you went to Australia, obviously you said you went immediately to Hawaii afterwards. Was
Uh,
New Zealand ever a consideration, or did you kind of just always want to bypass it?
no, no. New Zealand was definitely on my list, and I was sad that I couldn't get there when I left Brisbane. But looking at flights, it was expensive to fly at that time from Brisbane to say Auckland or a decent sized city. I forget what the flight was, but it was actually more expensive than me flying to Honolulu.
Jeez,
So
that is expensive.
yeah, yeah, I know, and I was on my because I thought it's just a hop over the channel,
Well,
I
it
mean, it's a
basically
lot farther
is.
than
I mean,
that, but still,
The flight from Sydney to Auckland was 2 hours 45 minutes.
yeah, yeah, it's not that far at all. My flight to Hawaii was like 8 hours or 10 hours or something. So I guess maybe it was just maybe the time frame that I was trying to book because maybe they didn't have as many people on the flight, but the Hawaii flight was booked because the Hawaii flight was pretty full going to Honolulu from Brisbane.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know whether you do it, but whenever I travel, I always try and fly on new airlines. Like, I don't want to fly on the safe option. I want to fly on like, the local airline or the national carrier of the country. Or it's just a weird game I play
Yeah,
with myself because it's like I'm so used to like Ryanair, BA, and TUI, like the European airlines, that I'm just like, give me like Qantas, give me Jetstar, give me like a random national airline.
yeah. I flew Qantas and I really liked it
I
actually.
loved Qantas, yeah.
Qantas and what's the other one I flew that I really liked? Caraway or something maybe?
Uh, Australian Air. I was gonna say is
It
Aust-
was I think it was my flight from I think it was my flight from Joburg to Bangkok, Thailand. I think it was called Caraway or something. I don't remember it. But yeah, I flew a few different airlines, and
yeah, and
Morocco Airlines, and
because my original plan, and I said this story about twice, but I'll say it again because it flipping annoys me still. But the my original plan was obviously to go. So as my Australia trip was coming to an end, obviously I knew I was doing New Zealand because I've already booked that flight. I was going to fly Qantas over to from Sydney to Auckland. And then the
mm,
original plan was because New Zealand as a country have such strict entry requirements. Like, I've never known a country where you're vetted so much before you even step foot on a plane. But
oh really?
they basically want proof before you even leave of your exit of the country. Like,
Oh, okay. So when you're leaving,
yeah, so I had to book a flight, and the original thing I was trying to do was obviously come to Florida. So I was going to go on Air New Zealand to LA and then get on a Delta flight like internally and go over to Orlando. that was
right?
that went completely off the charts because the United States immigration decided to deny my ESTA. That was fun.
Oh
I
man,
have no
yeah, I remember
clearance
that.
to enter America.
So
Because
then you had to find another plan, another
yeah,
option.
I gave myself a backup option. This was what annoyed me the most. So in this entire backpacking trip, I had got an Australian visa, like a proper visa, because obviously it's a working holiday, it's not a tourist visa. I had been granted my New Zealand tourist visa. I had been granted my Canadian ETA because I had the Canada one as a backup for in case America failed. And then America just decides, we have a trail of success, let's just deny you.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm 100%, I'm convinced it was a billing issue. Because basically I'd done a lot of international transactions, obviously, and UK banks are known to be very iffy with international transactions. Like they love to put a hold on it, just to verify it with you. They put a hold on the payment. So I was trying to pay Customs and Border Protection for my ESTA. I didn't realise until 4 hours after I'd paid, they'd fully blocked the payment, and then it auto-denies because they've not received payment.
I see what you're saying.
And then the thing is, because of US immigration law, once you get denied an ESTA once on that passport, you cannot apply for another one at all on that passport. So if I want to come to America now, I have to go to the embassy and get a proper visa.
Oh, so you can go to the embassy in the UK, right?
Yeah, there's one in London. I did that in December, and that was the most horrific experience of my life. Because obviously we were there in July, and that was really nice. They were really pleasant. They decided, so my appointment time was, I don't know, 10:50 in the morning or something like that at the embassy. I didn't get seen till over an hour later.
Jeez.
And then the thing is, they said, oh, you need to do a document check. And I was like, that's fine. I've got my passport on me. I've got the paperwork I filled out online printed off, so you can just have a quick flick. So I did the document check downstairs, and then you go upstairs, and oh no, another immigration officer needs to do the document check as well. And I was just thinking to myself, you've just done it less than a minute ago downstairs.
Yeah, do it again.
And then, so once you join that line took about half an hour to get through. Then you join a second line, and that's for biometrics. You don't even know if you're getting the visa yet. You have to go and take your fingerprints. So you do your two thumbs and a couple of your fingers. And then you join a third line, and this is the line where you're in line for an interview. Bearing in mind, this is now 45 minutes after my original appointment time.
Right.
And then you get there.
Do the interview, and you still don't even know.
I was gonna say they went. I went up to the counter. The lady looked like, and you can tell instantly if someone's having a bad day. So I was like, this is gonna go well. So she just asked, "What's your purpose of your visit to America?" And I obviously said, "Seeing my mum."
Right.
And then she was like, "Yeah, are you employed?" And I was like, "No, I've literally been back less than a week from Australia. I was trying to work out in Australia." That was it. She handed me the denied sheet and then said, move along.
Really?
And you don't get a chance to explain your situation. It's like, they don't care. Once they hand you that denied sheet, they don't want to know you anymore.
Yeah, you're done. That's it.
And then the thing was, though, that I just thought, because the thing is, you'd think an immigration situation would be a bit more private. Like, you're dealing with personal circumstances. It's like, no, they have it's like a bank. You have a bulletproof weird glass screen where they're on one side, you're on the other, and you speak into a microphone.
That's so weird. Yeah, I've actually never been in the U.S. Embassy.
I was going to say.
That's weird how that one.
It's like they want everyone in this hole, all 400 people, to know your immigration situation.
Yeah.
It's like, you should just take us into... You'd think it'd be like a conference room or something, a bit more one-to-one and private.
Right, yeah, you would think, like a little cubicle or something. You walk in and you sit down and you explain your situation, instead of everybody around you.
But no, I mean, people...
I did notice that even for a U.S. citizen, when I was traveling, now granted, on my last trip, too, I was gone for 7-8 months. But when I came back to the United States, after traveling, around the world and going into some airports where I get off the plane and just grab my backpack and walk out like nobody was checking nothing. And to come back to the United States, I felt like it was harder for me to get back into my own country than it was for me to travel the world and in and out of other, obviously I got stopped by the military in Morocco because of my drone, and I got drug into an office with military guys. I'm like, oh, this is kind of okay, this is different. I hope
Yeah.
I don't go to jail for this. But but coming home, it was like I had to go in. I had to put my passport on that identification thing, and the thing popped up and took a picture of my face and scanned my eyes. And I had to put a thumbprint on there, and then I go up, and they're like, "How long were you out of the country?" And then he's flipping through my passport, and he goes, "Wow." And I go, "Yeah." I go, "I was out for like 7 months." He goes, "Wow, that long?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a travel blogger." So I tell him, "Hey, look at my YouTube or look at my Facebook or whatever." The one guy actually looked it up. He goes, "Oh, wow, okay." But it was like I was getting the second degree
Yeah,
for traveling.
I mean, luckily, I don't think I've never had that coming back, especially after Australia and New Zealand to like London, because you don't
Yeah.
talk to a single human. Like it's all e-gates. Like you just put your passport down, it takes a picture of your face, the gates open, you move through.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
Yeah,
it was
that's
like
pretty
that in
simple.
Australia as well. I don't know whether they had the e-gates there, but when I landed in Australia at like whatever it was, 6 o'clock in the morning, I thought, oh gosh, I'm barely awake. I've got severe amounts of jet lag and I'm about to speak to a border officer. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
No, it's literally one e-gate. You put your passport down, you click a couple of options on like a touch screen, which basically says, are you bringing this into the country? Do you currently have possession of drugs, etc.? And you just say no to pretty much everything. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
and then that's it. The gate's open, you're in.
See, funny story. When I flew into Australia into Brisbane, um, I flew in and I actually did get to border patrol or whatever. So they went to scan my passport and I wouldn't scan, so they handed me off to this other lady, and she took me over this other thing where they had like a different scanner to try to scan it because my passport at the time was pretty worn from me using it a lot, so I guess the scan bar was a little rubbed off. So the
Yeah.
lady's looking at it and she looks at my picture and then she looks at me and she goes, "I know who you are." And I was like, "Wait, what? You know who I am? How do you know me?" And she goes, "You're Backpacker Mike. I've seen you on YouTube on the Camino de Santiago." And I'm like, "No way." So then that was
What are
like
the
my
odds of
in,
that?
So yeah, like what are the chances, right? So she was like, "I can't believe this. I'm talking to Backpacker Mike." And she like tells, the other person working next to him, the other person's looking up my social media stuff. And I'm just sitting there going, "Wow, this is pretty crazy." And so she finally got the scan, but they were really super nice, and she stamped it for me and checked. I did the e visa like I don't know 48 hours before or whatever, and
Yeah.
everything went through fine. But yeah, so that was kind of an interesting. At first, I thought, oh no, here we go. My mate Mike's sitting out there waiting. I don't know if I'm gonna get in if they can't scan my passport. What's gonna happen? And then she's like, "I know who you are."
I
I'm
was gonna
like,
say,
"Oh no."
I just found every interaction I had with the Aussie government because I probably had more than most tourists because obviously I've
Yeah,
now got an Australian tax number, I've got flipping Medicare, I've had so many interactions with the Aussie government. They have been
right.
delightful. I've never had a problem with them. It's like they've always been really over accommodating and overly friendly most of the time.
Yeah.
Even like the
Yeah, I mean everybody in Australia for the most part, from police officers to the border patrol people to people on the street, everybody was super nice. Well,
yeah.
never saw really an altercation. Never had any really be negative towards me or anything.
No,
It was
well, I
beautiful.
mean, I guess I've got one advantage over you as a US citizen, which is obviously us in Australia are part of the Commonwealth. So it's like they have legal restrictions where they can't discriminate against other countries or in the Commonwealth quite as heavily.
Right. Yeah.
So I've got that going for me being in the Commonwealth.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a
What would you say out of all the countries you've been to is the most underrated that a lot of people should now start considering going to?
oh boy. I'm trying to think because see, like I hit a lot of countries that were uh that are popularly visited. I suppose I didn't really hit any like offbeat countries, so it's kind of hard for me to say like one specific country. But I know like if you go to areas, say in a country that isn't well traveled, that you may have a better experience in. Like say going to Pula, Croatia instead of going to Dubrovnik or Splits, or going to what's another one? Going to Malta. I'll throw one out there, Malta.
Malta.
Yeah, I would say that Malta is pretty underrated. I mean, some people don't even know where Malta is. When I tell people, "Hey, I went to Malta," they're like, "Where is that?" I'm like, "It's the jewel of the Mediterranean. It's a three island chain. I mean, it has a lot of historical, significance. But I would say probably Malta would be one of those countries that I travel to that some people sleep on. Now, obviously, the backpacker community and the ones that travel a lot have probably know about Malta or have been to Malta.
I
But for
think
the average person just going on holiday or vacation or whatever, uh, to check out Malta, I think would be a really cool
I think
experience.
the reason Malta probably sits so weirdly in a position where not a lot of people know its existence is because if you look on like a globe, you really have to
Uh,
look for it because obviously it's sat right under Sicily. You got
yeah,
Tunisia to the west, you got Libya to the south, and it's like it's in the middle of the Mediterranean.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
it's like a really it can hide in plain sight. It's one of those countries that can hide in plain sight.
Yeah, exactly. And even myself, when I walked the Camino the first time, I only really learned about Malta because I ended up walking with a kid from Malta that me and Mike from Australia, we all made friends, and his name was Luca, and he was from Malta. So I went there to try to catch up with him from Sicily. I flew there from Catania, Sicily, and it's only you literally get in the air and you're already coming back down. That's how close it is from Catania, Sicily, say. And I unfortunately wasn't able to catch up with him. He had a bunch of things going on or whatever, so we didn't catch up. But I was there for about 10 days, and I really enjoyed Malta when I was there. I was in Saint Paul's Bay, Saint John's Bay, I think. I went to the Popeye, the old movie back in like 1971 or 70. No, I think it was 77 or 78, maybe. Popeye with like Robin Williams and them. That was filmed there, so the whole Popeye set was still there. You can go see it. Uh, so yeah, I would. Malta is really cool, and especially from a historical standpoint, and even for the English, because it used to be part of the English, empire, so to speak. Uh, Way back, even like World War II, they still have bunkers there that were used by the British in World War II. They have obviously the St. John's Knights, the Knights of St. John, I should say,
Yeah, yeah.
and all of that folklore there and history. It's a beautiful country. The food is amazing. It's a bit of a mix between like Italian and Mediterranean and Tunisian and African. It's a really cool place, and they speak English pretty fluently over there as well.
In my underrated country, it's underrated to some people, overrated for others, but I would
Mm.
actually go the UAE, like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, because
Yeah,
I was obviously in Dubai accidentally in January because
yeah, that's right. You got some kind of crazy layover or something up
yeah,
there, didn't you?
oh, that's a story that would go on for about 1,000 years because that was another horrific flight situation. But
Yeah,
but yeah, I was in Dubai for 3 days and I loved it. I was like, it wasn't meant to happen, but I'm glad it did.
right. Yeah,
But yeah,
happened for a reason.
so I was flying from London to Sydney. I was meant to be going back to Australia, with a different airline, and I was meant to have a stop in Hong Kong. Um, so I was flying with Cathay Pacific. I will never fly with this airline again with how they treated me. I will never fly with this airline again. But they're like a Ryanair. I vow never to fly with them again.
Uh,
I'd rather fly with EasyJet if I'm flying budget. But the London flight was fine, but then it was when I got to Hong Kong. I don't know what went on with my health, but it suddenly decided to go off the rails. I had a panic attack on the plane, and while in Hong Kong airport, I passed out twice in the space of about 10 minutes.
oh man.
I have no idea what was going on. My brain was all over the place because I'm now thinking, what the heck is going on? I have no medical insurance in Hong Kong. It's like, I travel like, I have my GHIC card, which is something you can get in Europe, which is basically so you're covered in most EU countries, like you get health insurance, and that's just for free. You
Right.
get that through the NHS, and then obviously in Australia, I've got Medicare, so I'm covered in Australia and New Zealand. But it's
Right.
just in Hong Kong, I was like, yeah, I ain't seen a doctor here. So
Yeah, Hong
I
Kong used to be under British rule up until what, the 19
1995, 96, something
something?
like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
but yeah, basically, I went to then on top of all of this, they lost my bag. They lost my case, and I was like,
Oh
"How have you
man.
lost your case?" I was questioning them, going, "How have you lost my case? It's a connection. It's like all you're meant to do is unload it and put it straight on the next plane for me, and I'm just meant to move myself to the next plane." But they said, "Oh, we can't find it. Go through immigration and wait in the baggage arrivals hall, and it will go there." And I was like, "Fine." So I cleared immigration. That was the easiest thing ever. And then I was there for over an hour. My connection window had disappeared. My other flight had already left. And I was just sat there going like, where the heck is my bag? It was there. No one told me it was there. It was on the floor, beaten to hell, looking like it had been through World War Three.
Oh jeez.
So then I was like, right, what do I do? So I obviously went into the arrivals hall, went straight back upstairs to departures, and I was just like, right, I gotta find the airline desk. So I found them. They couldn't put me on a flight. Their next flight was the next day. Which, bear in mind, at the minute it's like 11:30 at night. I'm falling asleep because the jet lag's starting to hit me, and
Yeah.
they said we can either put you on the flight tomorrow at 8 p.m. And I'm like, oh, jeez. I don't have any Hong Kong money. I don't know what I'm doing. And then they just said, or we can put you on a partnered airline flight and get you going within the next like hour and a half. And I was like, and I just kind of went with that option because it sounded the best in that moment. Probably not the best
Right.
idea in hindsight, but I just wanted to get moving again. I didn't want to be stranded in an airport all night or trying to work out how Hong Kong works and try and read Chinese. So it was. So I ended up their partnered airline was Emirates, and I was like, very nice.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah.
And then it was to Dubai. So so how I was explained was they were going to fly me to Dubai, and obviously Dubai is one of the biggest international hubs in the world. They have so many flights going in and out of Dubai, more than Hong Kong. So
Right.
they were going to fly me to Dubai and then put me on standby for any Sydney flights as soon as I arrive in Dubai. So they said that's the plan. So, and I walked up to the desk and obviously to check into that Dubai flight, and I got a free upgrade to business.
Oh no.
I was like, well, there's always a good and a bad. I got the bad thing, I'm going to Dubai now. Good thing, I'm going business class.
Yeah, exactly. You can't beat that, and especially on Emirates.
So yeah, the 6.5 hours from Hong Kong to Dubai, landed in Dubai at about 5 a.m. And then the guy said, we're going to put you on standby. So I went to the Emirates desk, which is everywhere. There's Emirates desks everywhere in Dubai because it's the national airline of the UAE. And then,
Right.
so I did that. He just said, we're going to send you, we don't want you to wait in the airport. They said, we don't know how long this could be. It could be a couple of hours. So they just said, we're going to drop you into Business Bay, into one of our hotels, like one of the partnered hotels with the airline, that they normally do. If a flight's cancelled, they normally obviously move them to this hotel. So they'd say, we'll do that. We'll give you an Uber credit so you can book. Jesus. So you can book you can book an Uber for free. Like, it was an Uber code where you can put it in the Uber app and the ride is on them.
Oh, that's good.
Because Uber is obviously the most dominant taxi service in Dubai. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. So
I didn't know that. That's cool.
yeah. I went to Business Bay, which is literally like 2 roads from the Burj Khalifa, and then I was sat in the lobby. Luckily, that hotel, it was bougie as heck. It was like 5-star Hilton. I was like,
Oh man,
this is a nice hotel. This is really nice.
was it expensive? I mean, I know you didn't have to pay for it, but was it expensive?
Well, this was the weird thing. So the airline basically said, we'll work everything out after midday. They gave themselves and me a window where it's basically midday. You'll find out whether we got you on a flight or not, and then you can make your way back to the airport, or we'll work out something else. So I basically had a coffee and stuff and just walked around like the Dubai Mall and Burj Khalifa on that first day. Basically was killing time till midday while trying to not fall asleep because I didn't sleep at all on that Hong Kong to Dubai flight. So I'm like potentially pushing 26 hours awake here. And yeah, they called me. I'm sorry, Mr. Plant, there are no flights available. We'll be giving you a full refund from Emirates and you'll get one night for free in that hotel. We've already transferred your details over to the hotel so you can just check in. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll work it out. But thanks for the refund. I was like, at least I got to admit, Emirates was so good with customer service. They made sure before they cut off the phone, I was 100% satisfied with what they were saying. And if I wasn't, they'd try and find an alternative. That they obviously could do. But
So then how did you end up getting the flight?
Right, so I didn't. So this is what happened. So I was in Dubai. I obviously had that one night in the hotel, but then I extended it. I paid for an extension of another one night. So 2 nights, 1 day, 3 days in Dubai. I extended it. Flipping heck, I've never paid so much for a hotel room in my life. Yeah, no wonder it was a Hilton. The amount of money I paid over 1,100 dirham, which was about 650 British pounds for one night.
Oh my god!
I was like, ouch, that hurts.
No way. I would have found another option.
Well, the thing was, I went on Expedia and Booking.com and I was like, right, there must be something cheaper. Nothing. It was all around the same price because Dubai is expensive. It's ridiculously expensive. You've got like the Marriott, the Intercontinental, you've got the Hiltons everywhere. You've got the Marina.
No hostels, no guest houses, no Airbnb.
No, I didn't look on Airbnb to be honest, but I couldn't find the only hostel I found was on the polar opposite end of Dubai. There was no public transport and the Uber was going to cost almost £80.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to suck it up and pay for one night.
Yeah.
So I paid for one night.
Dubai is expensive.
I was going to say, 5-star hotel room, you can't get better than that, though. I mean, I will admit, it was worth every penny.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And you get complimentary room service. I've never known a hotel to do that.
Oh, really? Wow.
So that first night, I was like, let's look at the menu. What do I want?
Yeah, exactly.
But then the second day, I just ate out. I ate in the Dubai Mall. But then I ended up just deciding I was looking at flights to Sydney from Dubai, like booking one independently that wasn't obviously rebooked for an airline. They were so expensive. It was almost £1,800. And I was like, it cost me $1,100 to go from London. I'm already halfway there with Dubai and you're charging me more than going from London.
Yeah.
So I just decided to pack it in, call Australia off, and go back to London. So I booked a British Airways flight from Dubai back to London, and that was it. It was, and that only cost me about £300. So I was like, yeah, that sounds a lot better than 1,800.
Yeah, than 1,800 for sure.
So I just flew on BA back to London.
Time frame, or maybe they were having something special there in Sydney that the prices increased.
There wasn't anything immediate like that I was like, okay, this is the definitive reason why the prices are high, because Christmas had been and gone, New Year had been and gone, so those two prices should have started coming down, but for some reason it was just, and the thing was with Dubai, and I don't know whether this was purpose or not, there's not many airlines that fly from Dubai to Sydney. There's BA, or British Airways, Emirates, Etihad, and Singapore. So I'm like, wow, all 3 out of the 4 of them are very expensive airlines.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was going to say, British Airways was the only one that was kind of reasonable, but the flight times and the prices and the infrequency of the flights, like the next flight, they didn't do daily flights to Sydney. It was like the next one was in 4 days' time. And I was like, And I was like, the only two airlines that did daily flights to Sydney was Etihad and Emirates. And I'm like, yeah, that ain't happening. I'm not paying 1,800 for a flight that I could have got for 1,100 from London. Like, I could have, this is what was weird. I could have flown back to London for £300 and then back out to Sydney for 1,100, and I would have still saved less than if I just flew directly from Dubai.
Yeah, it's still been cheaper than flying from Dubai.
It's
Not crazy.
Yeah, that
Now,
is.
I wonder if you would have flown from Dubai to somewhere
I mean,
else that
if
was
I could
cheaper,
have
and
probably,
then
I could
flown
have
from
probably
there.
flown to like Dubai to Singapore and then got a connection in Singapore.
Yeah,
But I didn't really consider that at the
because I
time.
did that. I did that a few times when I was traveling. I was like, well, I want to get to this spot, but I
Is
got
there
a
a
cheap
connection
flight
that
to
can make it
here.
cheaper?
Yeah, and a cheap flight from there, and I can stay there for a couple days. So, in total, I got a flight to where I was going. I stayed a couple days, and then the flight to where I really wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
it was
I
still
did.
less
I mean,
than flying
I
straight.
definitely did want to leave the airport in Singapore, but flipping heck, Singapore airport is like a massive shopping center or mall. It's like every shop under the sun is located in those terminals.
Yeah, I know.
But
But it was massive and very digital too, if I
y-
remember right. I
yeah,
mean, they
I
had
mean,
like
I wasn't allowed to
screens
clear
everywhere.
immigration because obviously I was just refueling and doing like a layover, so it's like I didn't leave the terminal, but and I stayed
Right. Yeah. I
airside.
didn't.
But the I guess we should pivot now to talk about your content. Do you want to talk about Pint Time or potentially the coffee brand Destination Brews?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, like I said before, I created Pint Time. It's every Saturday. It's basically showcasing craft beers and travel, where I give everyone travel ideas. Like this last week's show was the top nomad destinations that I had. So I've been doing that for a while now. That's every Saturday on Facebook. Probably going to branch out to possibly doing lives on TikTok or Instagram. Uh, Instagram again. I'm not sure yet. Do some food reviews too, as well as far as my other content. Aside from Fight Time, I do food reviews, and I'm gonna start getting back into some travel videos. But yeah, in the meantime, I've created my own coffee brand called Destination Brews. You can find it at destinationbrews.com. And there was two reasons why I started this. Traveling the world, and obviously tried a bunch of different coffee everywhere I travel because I like coffee and I like tea. So I sell coffee and tea and merchandise on there. And I have coffee from all over the world. It's premium single origin coffee. The beans are sent to my roasters here in the United States, and then they roast it and they ship it out to the customers, and I can ship worldwide. So if anybody wants to order outside of the United States, they can do that. And the second reason why I started it was because when I was a caregiver for my dad for the last 6 years before he passed, he had dementia, and we used to do coffee time every morning together. So I would make a pot of coffee. Yeah, I know drip coffee here in the United States, but I'd make a pot of coffee, and we would sit there and sing old songs together and talk about my travels, and I'd show him my Australia videos again and things like that while we were having coffee, and it just reminded me of such a good time that I had with my father. So what better than to bring coffees from around the world to people and hope that in turn someone who buys that coffee would have that same connection with someone like I did with my father doing coffee time with the coffee. So Destination Brews. So yeah. So that's my content right now. I'm going to start doing a lot of food reviews as well too, because some people ask me, Mike, why do you do craft beer, food, and travel? Well, because when you travel, what do? You find a good drink or good beer, you find some great food. Um, so why not incorporate craft beer and food in with the travel? So I was interested to find out that craft beer is like in a lot of places in the world. When I was in Scotland, I saw craft breweries over there. I mean, in Europe, obviously. But yeah, I was kind of shocked that craft beer was as large as it was because it was kind of started here per se. There's a bit of a discussion about that, but sort of started here in the United States as far as the eclectic craft beer scene. So it's kind of nice to see it expanding out. And I follow a bunch of other um, beer review people across the pond by you in the UK.
Yep.
And it's kind of neat to see the beers, the craft beers that they get and stuff, and that they try. And I'm like, man, I really want to try that, but we can't ship any back and forth because it gets confiscated apparently.
I was gonna say there's
So
so
yeah,
many restrictions on stuff.
yeah, I know some restrictions on things. Yeah, my friend Krill in Sweden has been trying to send me pastrami for like 3 or 4 times. He sent me pastrami, and it never even made it past customs here. I don't know why. I see a lot of other people trying that stinky fish, but but I was unable to try it because my friend couldn't send it to me. So I could probably order it on Amazon though and get it just fine.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I would say on the note of the coffee that when I'm traveling, especially solo, and I'm jet lagged, like the first thing I do is buy local coffee. It's like it's
yeah,
like, and I will say obviously I've had like French, Italian and French are very similar but slight differences. But the I would actually say my favorite is Australian. Like Australian style coffee is so nice.
really. I
Yeah,
really liked the Spanish coffee when I was walking the Camino. The espresso, even the cafe americanos were pretty good. The cappuccinos, I really enjoyed that. The espresso was really strong. Bit like, it reminded me a bit like a Cuban coffee.
yeah. So
Being here in Florida.
yeah. So obviously, if you guys are interested in that, links in the description down below. If you guys want to check any of that out, you're interested in either Pint Time, I'll leave the links to the Facebook or the TikTok, and obviously, Destination Brews will be linked down below as well.
Awesome.
So just on a brief note to wrap things up, do you have any massive social media plans moving forward? Do you have like a revitalization of your YouTube channel coming or anything like that? Or like you expanding? Obviously, you said you're expanding Pint Time, hopefully beyond Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to expand that beyond Facebook. And yes, I want to revamp or rebuild or restructure sort of my YouTube. I have some plans to take some of my old travel videos and re-edit them because some of those travel videos I made, I was still teaching myself how to edit. I mean, when I go back and I watch some of them now, I think, oh yeah, I didn't need to put that in there. No, I need to cut that out. So I'll probably be redoing some of the travel videos in a different fashion, maybe cutting them down, doing shorter versions and the longer version. And then I'm going to start doing some more travel videos again, mostly here in Florida, probably little, 2 day trips, one tank trips. And I'm throwing some ideas out there. Like one of the ideas I have is I think I want to try to find like some of the smallest towns that I could find here in Florida and find out where the spot is that all the local people hang out there, whether it's a pub or a restaurant or something like that, and get in there and maybe talk to some locals and potentially do a prime time live there with some locals, and they can explain how small their town is and how much they like living there and things like that. So I'm tossing that idea around, and obviously those videos will be loaded up onto my YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, hopefully I'll put the YouTube channel back out there again. I've been focusing a lot on TikTok lately with short little videos and review videos and things like that and travel videos. But yeah, I'm gonna expand a little bit more into YouTube and maybe post a little bit more on Instagram. So
Cool.
so yeah.
So that's gonna wrap it up for this week, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Chit Chat Show. Thank you, Mike, for being on, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys.